Hello Dunkery family, Emily back with another video about wives and submission. For those of you who don't know me, I've been married for 6 years. My name is Emily and I have 3 little boys. And on my channel I like to share everything to do with family life and homeschooling and marriage as well. This particular video is a follow-up to the other 2 I did on what submission means, especially from my experience, how I understand it. In response to those videos, a lot of women asked, well, what does it actually mean to submit, and what are some examples of submission? So on the one hand, I believe every woman should figure out her husband and figure out his needs. If her heart is to please her husband, then she will step by step find out what are the right submissive things to do for him, and take her cue from his desires. On the other hand, I do have some experience and I would like to share from that, and hopefully these points will give you some tips. So we're going to go over 5 different ways in which a woman can show honor to her husband and be submissive to him. These are only a few of the ways in which a woman can submit. So I thought I'd break this video up into 2 or 3 so that we can go over all the different topics and different aspects of it. But today we're just looking at 5, and those are conversation, obedience, service, deference, and support. So I thought a lot about making this video, and the last thing I want to accomplish through this talk is to make you as a wife feel burdened. So I don't want you to take this video as a list of rules, because that's just laying on burdens and laying on the law, which is not the way of the Christian life. We should be cultivating our hearts, and the purpose should be to cultivate a heart of surrender towards our husbands, which is also what the church is called to do. So it's always a representation of the church and the relationship we have with Christ. The first angle I want to tackle on this is conversation. Our conversation and our words are very powerful, and there are 2 ways in which we can honor our husbands with what we say, and that is firstly with when we are talking to our husbands. The way we talk to them is strongly indicative of how we feel about them and how we see them. The thing about submission is it is as much what you do as what you don't do. And in conversation, you want to really avoid challenging him or challenging his reasoning. You may tend to think your logic is superior, or that he doesn't measure up to your level of thinking. And this is a mistake. If you are putting him down, you are not giving him the opportunity to lead, and you're showing you don't trust him. As the leader, you have to trust him. I think this is a major obstacle for a lot of women, and that is the concern that subjecting your wisdom to your husband's wisdom means that you are inferior. So is the wife's leading and her intelligence and her knowledge inferior to her husband's? Is that why she must submit? And the answer is no. So no, you are not an inferior species, so to speak, because you submit. But what does tend to happen is women marry men that they look up to, and they feel instinctively that this man will provide and be the one to take the lead and forge the way ahead. Somewhere along the way, that admiration and respect disappears, and all we start to see are faults, and we start to challenge them. Then we have situations where we are talking about our husbands to other people, and if we are at all concerned with how he is perceived and the level of respect other people have for him, we will be careful with the words we use and how we portray our husbands to other people. As wives, we have a lot of intimate knowledge about our husbands, and we share the most closest quarters with him, so we will know everything, and everybody has faults, so it is up to us whether we are going to broadcast these faults for all to see and all to know whether they wanted to or not, and whether it is necessary or not, or whether we will practice discretion and paint our husbands in a positive light to other people. It's an act of love. It's not about denying the truth. It is simply love covering a multitude of sins, and having regard for his name and how other people perceive him. So I know what you're probably thinking now is, but what about that saying I see on Instagram that tells me we should challenge each other in our relationship, and that is the only way we can grow or make each other grow? Well, there is an essence of truth in this, but it is not the way we are being told it should be done. The way in which we encourage our husbands to grow is not by challenging them. That is one sure way to make them close up to you and to harden their hearts. And yes, men do not respond to pressure in that way. The way we encourage our husbands to grow and improve is through our conduct. We act kindly towards them. We focus on the things we like about them and the things that we see as potential in them, and we show our admiration for those things. That is the way in which we encourage growth. So as you can see, a lot of the times it is what we don't do that is actually the most helpful in our marriage. So let's take a look at service. As women, we provide a lot of practical benefits for our husbands, and we can see to a lot of their needs. Well, first of all, Christ has called us to become servants, so as Christians, we should not have a problem with that. I know the objection is, why must the wife be the servant and not both be the servant? We are designed differently. Woman was taken from man. She was taken from his rib, from his bone. Man was made from the earth, from the dust. Man was made for the heavy lifting in life, for bearing the brunt of things and the heavier burden in life. So it's not as if they have all the privilege. They also have a lot more responsibility and weight on their shoulders. And women are designed for the more refined things, such as relationship and communication, nurturing. These are the things we are specifically made for. To call us equals in marriage and having the exact same functions in the marriage is a gross oversimplification of this beautiful design that God made. What happens when we subject ourselves and serve our husbands in physical, everyday, practical things like cooking and keeping the home nice and getting their clothes ready, making sure that all their practical needs are seen to, is first of all, you have to recognize he married you and he sees you as an intelligent, beautiful, lovely creature. He picked you, he liked you. And when you voluntarily, willingly subject yourself to him, he is highly complimented and flattered and glorified through what you are doing for him. Inversely, it's actually a compliment to you as well that he finds it so complimentary. If you get what I'm saying, you, in all your grace and charm and loveliness, are subjecting yourself to your man, and that to him elevates his own self-perception because he already thinks well of you, and you're reflecting so well on him in turn. So it reflects back and forth the whole time and it only gets better from there. So let's move on to obedience, which is probably the most self-evident aspect of submission. And I'd like to draw your attention to a scripture about meekness, and it's directly addressed to women. 1 Peter 3 verse 4. 1 Peter 3 is a great reference for submission. There is so much tucked away into all those verses on submission. So 1 Peter 3 verse 4, but let your adorning be the hidden man of the heart, in that which is not corruptible, even the ornament of a meek and quiet spirit, which is in the sight of God of great price. Obedience and meekness go hand in hand. If you lift yourself up and have a stiff neck, which is very natural, comes naturally to any human being, meekness will not be in your heart, and obedience will be pretty much impossible. So meekness is crucial, and this verse is specifically addressed to women. It's talking about what it means to be a godly wife, and meekness is right in the middle there. Meek and quiet spirit. So what does meekness mean? It's humility, a humble, patient yielding. It's a place of complete surrender and openness to being guided and shown and directed. It's compliance with trust. Now, most men are actually not particularly bossy. There are very, very few men who will take absolute, complete control of everything you do and say and think and your time. If you have a man like that, you need to give it all, and that is godly, that is scriptural. What he needs to do and how he needs to do that is his business, not yours. God has stipulated how a man should love his wife, and it is contradictory to submission to try and enforce his cooperation with God's will. So you have to leave that to him. But the good news is your obedience has a positive effect on your husband, and it encourages him to become more Christ-like. It's in the scriptures. It says, without a word, through your conduct, you can win your husband over. Most men are not that bossy. You will now and then get instructions, now and then have requests made of you from your husband. So do it freely and happily. Have a joyful heart. Be ready, eager to help him. Body language is so important. When he asks you to do something, demonstrate through your physical response how pleased you are that he asked you to do something, and that it is your delight to do something for him. That is the highest form of beautiful obedience. And it's a picture, once again, of how the church is to respond to Christ, and how the church exists for Christ, and everything is wrapped up in pleasing him. So, for example, your husband asks you to prepare extra food, extra large meal because he's inviting a colleague over for dinner. Can you have it ready at this time? And the beauty and elegance of obedience is it's so simple. You say yes, and you're pleased to be doing it for him. Now, if there's a problem with the request, a practical problem, a reason why you can't do it, and that can vary. Like a lot of us just simply feel tired at the end of the day and we don't really feel like doing it. And sometimes there is actually a real problem, as in the car is broken down, you can't go and get groceries. Whatever it is, first try to solve the problem yourself. This is where we have to be smart and strong. Being a submissive woman does not mean you are weak. It is quite the opposite. You are strong, you are smart. The smarter and stronger you are, in the sense of having control of your emotions, having a sober mind, a stable mind, so that you can make things easier for your husband, not harder. But obviously, if you can't sort it out and there's a particular strong reason why you can't do what he has asked, then of course let him know and see what he can do to help. There are seldom reasons why you absolutely cannot obey. On the other hand, you could be at a place in your marriage where obedience is a new approach for you, and it's been such a long time since he has ever asked you to do something because he gave up long ago and you resisted and you refused. If this has happened, the onus is on you to reignite that aspect of your relationship. A lot of the time we actually know what our husbands want, even if they haven't expressed it, because we're clever that way. And if you don't know, you could even ask him. But a lot of the time there is one or other small thing or big thing that you can change right away and start doing to please him. And he will notice that immediately, and it will become a catalyst and accelerate that aspect of your relationship where he feels free to ask you to do things for him, to help him in practical ways, and not be concerned about any retaliation from you or punishment in any form. That he can just have that absolute freedom with you, and he will delight in you because you are so happy to make his life easier. Another way we can submit is through support. Support comes naturally to most women. It is something we are designed for. We naturally have pity on the downtrodden or the tired ones, the ones who are worn out. We want to foster and help and rejuvenate. This applies when our husbands are tired and discouraged or worn out or at their wits' end. We will be there for them, and we are so well equipped to help them. And even though it sometimes doesn't feel like it, it is something we learn over time. If we understand what our husbands go through every day to provide for their families, we will have a lot more empathy and understanding for what state of mind they come home in when the day is over and they're worn out, especially if it was a bad day. They are already battling the elements out there. It's not easy. So we must appreciate what our husbands are doing and show them the support. I mean, the support can come in many forms. If you're a stay-at-home wife, providing a lovely home and ensuring the children are well-mannered and clean and happy to see him when he comes back. Those things can really cheer a man up. And having a beautiful smile on your face, all those simple things is showing your support. It's also what you don't do, once again. When he comes home, you don't ask him to do things for you, and you don't burden him with complaints or problems or stresses of your day until he has had a chance to unwind. This is a great way to show your respect for him and for what he has done for you during the day. And I know that as a mom and a wife, you feel your duties are never over. Why does he get a chance to rest and not me? The truth of the matter is your burdens are lighter. You may be worn out and tired, but the weight of the burden is much lighter as a woman, because we don't have to battle the elements the way our men have to. Also, if you're bearing those burdens graciously, your husband will 9 times out of 10 want to help you because you're being so sweet about it. Our support can also take the form of actually joining them in the workforce or having secondary income that can provide some alleviation for financial stress in the home. A lot of men really appreciate that, and it shows that you're willing to work hard, you're willing to pull your weight, and be an ally in this battle for life. But it all depends on your husband. I'm giving general advice. You need to figure out what your husband wants. Support can also take the form of being a really good listener if he has something to share or some troubles. Just being a listening ear, sympathetic, offering comfort, offering wisdom if he asks for it, and being encouraging, showing him admiration or giving him words of upliftment. It is so important when we give encouragement with words that we are not patronizing. Men do not ever want to be seen as weak or struggling. And if they are confiding in you with a struggle, you need to maintain that respect and not belittle them in any slight form or way. Because as women, we are more comfortable with having a struggle or an emotional breakdown. It's it's not our form of identity in how emotionally resilient we are. But for a man, if he feels safe, that his integrity is still intact in your eyes, while he goes through a struggle and shares some difficulty with you, you will have a much more open way of communication, and you'll be able to build him up again without insulting him in any way. Lastly, I'd like to talk about deference, and this is really strongly connected with trust. Deference is basically giving way to his will under any circumstance, really. And it is so strongly rooted in trust, because if you can't trust his reasoning and his judgment, you won't be able to give way to his will, because you will constantly be doubting it. You can inject your opinion and offer your point of view, but at the end of the day, you need to give way to his will and let him have the final say. So the problem arises when you are struggling to trust his judgment. And this happens when you don't actually respect him and you don't look up to him. And the reason why this happens is women feel more vulnerable in life. I know this is a very unpopular opinion, but I'm going to just say it. They feel less capable of dealing with catastrophe and fending for themselves. And that is one of the main reasons why we act more carefully. We are more cautious and we act more safely. We always put in safeguards and don't take as big risks. I mean, the insurance policies reflect that. And this is because we are more self-preserving, and men take risks. They are much more willing to deal with things going badly wrong, which is a catalyst for fear in marriage. And a lot of women struggle to just go with it because they see the potential disaster. This fosters fear and causes you to distrust and be afraid and to doubt your husband's judgment. But as Christian women, we know fear is not a good thing. It's not a good trait to have in your heart in any circumstance. And we need to learn to be more brave. We need to cast off this fear and act with confidence. And how can we act with confidence? By putting our faith in God. God has given us the mandate to submit. And if we truly trusted him, even just the tiniest little bit, that'll be enough to give you that bravery you need to push through and cast aside those fears. Instead of seeing the things that could go wrong, you need to focus on the things that could go right. There are actually multiple outcomes for any situation. And to focus only on the one thing and to increase the proportion of failure in your mind is only going to destroy your husband's confidence. If he has seen fit to take a risk or to do anything that you are dubious about, you need to take a step back and think of the positive outcomes and really ask yourself why you don't trust him. The thing is with getting married is most of us choose somebody we think we can look up to. Instinctively, that is what we want. So deference should not be acquiescing. It should be a joyful surrender. It should be a willing, confident yes. Let's go with your decision. And there will certainly be times where he calls upon your judgment and he says, what do you think? You make this decision. That certainly does happen. And that, once again, is a sign of his wisdom. So it's not as if he's taking absolute control and complete disregard for your skills and insights. There are very few men who have that little discretion. Have confidence in your man. You can safely count upon him to make good decisions, even if you can't see them at the time. And if he makes the bad ones, he will learn from them. Cast out that fear and be a brave, strong woman. So that's it from me. I hope that was helpful and gave you some insights. As I said, I'm breaking this video up into 2 or 3 parts. So next up, I'll be talking about approval and admiration, modesty, affection, devotion, and beauty. As aspects of submission from the wife's part. Don't for a second think you are weak or unnoticed. Your quiet work as a woman has a big effect in the community and everybody who sees your beautiful behavior towards your husband. And that is the beauty about Christian marriage. We're also different in our personalities, and there are so many different kinds of husbands. And in this way, the unity and the types of marriages you find will always vary, still within the principle of wifely submission, but there's so much variation within that. And it's beautiful and very inspiring for me to see. So I'll catch you on the next video, sending you many blessings in your marriage and your family. Lots of love. Bye.